Manchester United 0, Southampton 0. A clean sheet. No
as
loss.
someone just said in the studio, it was a tough day at the office.
It was, wasn't it?
Considering I had high hopes for the game at the start, thinking it was going to be just a nice, an easy win. Not an easy win to speak, but a nice 2-3-0.
Yeah.
We made it very hard for ourselves, but there was circumstances that made it harder.
Well, let's just get straight into that because there's 2 or 3 main talking points here, and they all centre around VAR. So the first one is the red card.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the obvious first place to start this. Casemiro gets sent off. In what minute was it that he got sent off? If we can just get that quickly.
It was like the 31st, 32nd minute.
Yeah, it was in the 34th minute.
2 minutes.
United at that point, I think, were the sort of the better team. I wouldn't say dominating, but we made a couple of chances. Varane one at the near post. Rashford had a couple of chances. Maybe could have squared it to Weghorst. Looking like a game we were coming into. Then it's initially a yellow card given by Anthony Taylor, which then is overturned to be a red card, straight red for Casemiro. Undoubted. I'll start with the things that cannot be doubted, and then we'll get to our opinions on it.
Yeah.
Casemiro goes in for the tackle with his right leg extended, his left leg tucked under his body, so it's not a two-footed challenge. He wins the ball ahead of the Southampton player, who doesn't win the ball at all. His foot then bounces up off the ball after he's won it cleanly, and then goes into the Southampton player's shin. His studs hit the Southampton player's shin. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Firstly, do you think that it should have been a red card? Are you surprised the fact that it was overturned, the fact that it was considered a clear and obvious error by the referee? What do you make of the whole situation?
I don't think it should have been a red card, but I can understand. No, I can't understand why the referee gave it a red. I understand the booking completely, though.
Yeah.
Because the circumstances were that maybe Casemiro shouldn't have gone in with his feet that high to get into a situation like that. I understand that obviously the ball bounces and it then means that his foot sort of turned towards the Southampton player. But again, you could argue, why is his foot that anyway? Obviously, a screenshot like the one that's on our little TV there makes it look bad, but it doesn't show the whole picture. I think that's what Anthony Taylor sees.
Yeah.
He sees that screenshot and thinks it's bad, and I think a lot of people watching or just flicking through Twitter that'll see that screenshot will actually go, yeah, that's bad. But then when you watch the circumstances unfold on how it happened, it's not a red card for me. But then I would say that, I don't know. As a neutral, we asked one of the people in the studio and they thought it was a bit harsh. And there's no doubt in my mind that if Casemiro stays on that pitch, then we win that game. Over time, there it is there.
But again, there's almost no point showing that because that's... If you show any tackle or any foul at the point of contact, you can make the argument that it's a yellow or a red card because you don't know what's led to that, what's come after that. The only reason, to get that off, the only reason that his foot touches the Southampton player is because he wins the ball and his foot bounces off the ball.
Yeah.
It's not the trajectory of Casemiro's tackle when he made it. So you talk about whether a tackle is likely to cause injury or likely to cause harm. If we get the rules back up at some point, Ethan. When he made that tackle, he's not jumping towards the Southampton player. The Southampton player isn't in the line of his tackle. He wins the ball cleanly, and his foot is then sort of taken off on a detour because it bounces off the ball. So at some point, you just you're blaming physics and the geometry of a sphere for a player getting some studs on the shin. And that to me shouldn't fall at the feet of Casemiro. It's an unfortunate thing that's happened because obviously the player wasn't injured; he carried on, but. There was no intent. I know intent isn't in the rules anymore, but there's no dangerous play there from Casemiro for me. The only reason he touches the ball, the man, is because his foot's bounced off the ball. I think that's so harsh to take that into account. To expect Casemiro to know that my foot's going to bounce off this circular object that's rolling at this amount of miles per hour, which is then going to go into this player's leg, he don't even know where his player's leg is going to be when he goes in. Do you know what I mean? Like, if their player was stood still and Casemiro sprints in and dives in, goes through the ball, takes the man out, studs into his ankles, I get it. But their player is running across him. The ball is rolling across him. How is he meant to work all of this out at the point that he leaves the ground to make that tackle? Yeah. It's an almost impossible request for Casemiro to make. And I think it's harsh to send someone off for presumably what is seriously foul play when you think there's nothing seriously foul about that. Like, here's the rule. A tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality. To me, excessive force or brutality, you can take them out. I think the one possible thing you're looking at there is endangering the safety of an opponent. But that's where I go back to what I've just said of how much is he expected to take into account when he goes in for a tackle.
But the only thing you can argue there is surely he shouldn't put his feet up high enough for a situation like that.
But his foot wasn't that high enough to do that until it bounced off the ball.
It was high though. It was high. That I know what you're saying there, but that could have actually that would have hurt that, I bet.
People, by the way, anyone who's saying reckless in the comments, the word reckless isn't mentioned in the rules for seriously foul play, so that doesn't matter if it's reckless.
Yeah.
Neither is the word intent. So I know I mentioned that before. So the word intent isn't mentioned. The word reckless isn't mentioned. So anyway, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think whatever happens now, it's a massive blow. 4 games out for Casemiro. We thought it was 3, but then you learn that obviously if he's had a red card before, straight red, which he did do, we now are without him for 4 games, which are sort of crucial games. That's 7 games in total we've missed. What you may say is our most impactful player. It's gutting going into the quarter-final of the FA Cup and 3 really big games in the Premier League, especially when we don't pick up any point. Well, a point for today. You need more than that. Yeah. So I'm a little bit. Yeah, gutted is a strong word, but I'm a bit fucking God.
It's one of them minute where it does feel painful, and then I think we've got a screenshot as well in just a minute. But the potential handball that again for me that United should have got as a penalty about 5 minutes after that, wasn't it? It was the game went into a sort of melee, and you can see the Southampton defender there on his hands and knees with his arm extended off to the left. His arm isn't even on the floor there, by the way, when the ball touches it. So when you talk about the ruling on that, if you can get that as well again, Ethan, if that's available, the rule on handballs is something to the effect of, if the defender's hand is between his body and the ground when he's falling, then it's not a handball. But his arm, when the ball actually touches it, is in the air. Because he's trying to move it out of the way, fair enough, but he doesn't move it out of the way. You don't get your arm out of the way. And it stops Weghorst having the ball basically 8 yards out with no one in front of him except the goalkeeper. That's the thing. It's one of those where you just think, another day, United have got a penalty there and that's no red card. Neither of them was so definite that you can't tell me that that's definitely not a penalty. And you can't tell me that that's definitely a red. Unfortunately for United today, the 2 big decisions have both gone against us, haven't they?
Yeah. So the inconsistencies that VAR's bringing to the game is actually, I think, causing more harm than good. But the people who make the rules don't want to know. I don't know why they don't want to know, but it's frustrating. Swings and roundabouts, though. We have been on the receiving end of some good VAR decisions and some bad ones. I think rather than having some good ones and bad ones, I'd rather just have consistent ones. And I think that's what a lot of football fans get frustrated with, because like you say, another game, then United win 1-0 from a penalty and we've still got 11 men on the pitch. But today was not the case.
Let me just go through the offside, the handball rule. So it's an offence if a player deliberately touches the ball with their arm, for example, moving the arm/hand towards the ball. In fairness, I don't think he's deliberately touched it with his arm.
No.
So that one, I'll take that away. But the second bullet point, which is separate to each other, is touches the ball with their arm when it's made their body unnaturally bigger, which I think, how can you not be making your body unnaturally bigger? You're literally on your hands and knees. Yeah. Secondly, a player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand/arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement in that specific situation. But the crucial bit here, which I think is the bit that should mean this is a penalty, or by having their arm/hand in such a position that the player takes a risk of their arm/hand being hit by the ball. Yeah. I think if you are on your hands and knees in the box when a cross has come in and you don't get your arms out of the way, you are taking a risk of the ball hitting your arm there. You just are.
Yeah, you are.
I don't understand how that can be argued. It just I don't know.
And it just pisses me off a bit. Screenshot again, Ethan. Just have a look.
Are you telling me?
Look at where the position is, by the way, of Weghorst there. Yeah. He can easily collect that ball. If that ball doesn't hit his hands, he's on a great shooting opportunity. Now, some people he may not score because he's a bit funny on a great goal scoring situation, but it still becomes an opportunity.
Yeah. By having their hand/arm in such a position, the player takes the risk of their arm being hit by the ball and being penalised. To me, he's taking that risk by being literally on his hands and knees inside the box and not getting his arm out of the way. We've got a few super chats. Sam Z says Anthony Taylor definitely on Barcelona's payroll, allegedly. David I says Casemiro's challenge was poor. If his boot isn't that high, it doesn't bounce off the top of the ball, asking for trouble. Okay, I understand that. Abhinav Verma says the freeze frame thing is ridiculous. The contact was brief. He won the ball. The play was just 2 seconds. It wasn't a long contact, like stamping on someone repeatedly. Yeah. Akash Solomon says if Casemiro's foot is bouncing off the ball is a red, then by that twisted logic, Peter's momentum with the scissor tackle on Garnacho should have been 1-2. Well, yeah, that's another point, isn't it? Like, winning the ball now isn't a sort of a definitive factor on whether something's a foul or not. You can win the ball and still be sent off. And you look at Garnacho, who I don't know if it was a tactical decision, but he certainly looked like he'd sustained some level of pain and injury from that tackle. Could you consider that to be dangerous? He won the ball, but then his leg sort of scissored across Garnacho's ankle. And to be honest, I don't think the one on Garnacho is a red. But again, if you're using this logic of, well, touching the ball doesn't mean that it's not a foul, then maybe it was. Gelbinio says Premier League with Sunday League refs, disgrace. Jordan Amor says the fact that handball wasn't given shows how incompetent the Premier League refs are and how VAR is too inconsistent. And Jerome T. Green says, could the tackle on Garnacho technically have not been a penalty? I think that's the same point. He won the ball, but scissors Garnacho. It's a dangerous tackle. Casemiro won the ball and got sent off. I mean, that's the thing, innit? These decisions that we just see all the time keep raising these questions of, is this a penalty? Is that a penalty? Is that handball? Is that handball? Like I said, the one in the midweek of Chelsea getting that handball where the Chelsea player's booted it at the Dortmund player's arm. His arm is down by his side. Yeah. He's under 2 meters away from the Chelsea player. No chance to move his arm out of the way. He doesn't make his arm unnaturally big. Like all of these things, and that was given. In the Champions League as well, where you're meant to be getting the best refs from around Europe.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm bad there at the office today.
Yeah.
We would have loved 3 points. A little bit of momentum after a 7-0 defeat. You look back at it, and we look back at some of these results when the Premier League finishes, and unfortunately I think it's Arsenal's to lose because they won 3-0?
Yeah.
And you think, imagine if we just picked up 2 points there, or so yeah, a bit gutting today.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Just looking ahead quickly. Next game and the last game before the before the international break, we've got Betis away on Thursday and then Fulham at home next Sunday. If we win those 2 games, I think, in our heart of hearts, we all kind of thought that United weren't going to win the Premier League this season. It was nice to sort of flutter with the title race, which I think we did, but it always felt like it was a bridge too much. However, another trophy or 2, I think, is something that United fans can not necessarily expect, but genuinely hope for. So winning those 2 games, to me, would sort of put this to one side and say quarter-final of the Europa League, semi-final of the FA Cup, going into the international break, I'd take that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Right, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Joe, for coming on today.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
Find us on the Sloppy Joes on YouTube. It's a YouTube channel where we have a podcast. It's funny. We don't talk about football because on days like today, it can be quite sad.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put the link to that in the description, so make sure you check out Joe there. Thank you very much for joining us at home. A frustrating, horrible, inconsistent. I think it showed a lot of the weaknesses and the downsides to VAR this game today. Not necessarily the worst decisions, but just nonsensical decisions, if you ask me. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for the podcast, for the news, all of that good stuff this week. And of course, the good thing about United is whenever you drop points, there's another game 2 days away. So we're back on Thursday for the full build-up to Manchester United versus Real Betis. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.